My name is Marie Patterson, and I'm 28 years old. Family events have always felt like punishment for a crime I don't remember committing. I'm the oldest of three, but somehow the one everyone forgets. Or maybe forgets is too kind. My parents don't forget me. They just look through me, over me, past me, as if I'm the placeholder child who accidentally made it into the family photo. My youngest brother, Zach, has always been the gravitational center of our parents' universe. Football star, frat prince, golden child. The type who could set a kitchen on fire trying to boil water and still get praised for being creative. My middle brother, Jake, gets a respectable level of parental interest. They remember his birthday at least. Meanwhile, I've always been the one they assume will figure it out. The one who doesn't need anything. The one who stays quiet because it's easier. So when Zach announced his wedding, I knew exactly what was waiting for me. A long afternoon of fake smiles, subtle dismissals, and that familiar sensation of being a stranger in my own bloodline. But I went anyway, not out of love, out of closure. For the first time in years, my life was steady. I had a stable job, a small art business online, and a boyfriend, Ryan, who treated me like something more than an accessory. He offered to go with me, but I told him no. Some battles you fight alone. Besides, I thought, I can survive one day. I was wrong. The wedding took place at a sprawling vineyard. White tents, gold-trimmed glasses, fairy lights twinkling like a Pinterest fever dream. Every decorative detail screamed, "Look how perfect we are." My invitation had arrived 1 week before the event, names scribbled in like someone remembered me after the envelopes were sealed. I should have taken the hint. After the ceremony, which I'll admit was beautiful, we moved into the reception tent. Tables covered in fresh linens, cascading flowers, menus that probably cost more to print than my electric bill. Guests floated around finding their assigned seats. So I searched for mine. First table, nothing. Second table, nothing. Fifth table, still nothing. A sinking feeling crawled into my throat. Then I saw it. Far in the corner of the tent, past the decorated tables and the candle-lit centerpieces, was a lone fold-out table. Plastic. Beige. The kind used at church bake sales. Next to it sat a single metal chair. No tablecloth. No flowers. Just a laminated sign taped to the front. Reserved. And standing proudly beside it, drink in hand and smirk in place, was Zach. He lifted his champagne flute at me like he was making a toast. "Your spot's over there, Marie," he announced loudly enough for nearby guests to turn. "Family's only at the decorated tables." Laughter. Actual laughter. Old relatives. Former neighbors. People who hadn't spoken to me in a decade chuckled behind expensive glassware. Even my mother gave a tight little smile like Zach had done something adorably mischievous. My cheeks burned, not out of shame, out of something colder, something sharper. But I walked to that plastic table, I sat in that metal chair, and I waited. Because something in me, something tired and done, told me this wasn't over. Dinner passed in a blur of clinking glasses at the real tables while I ate my meal alone in my little exile. Guests gave me pity glances before looking away. My parents didn't look at me once. Then the waiter approached, a leather folder in hand, receipt inside. He hesitated, glancing toward the main table before approaching mine. "Excuse me, miss," he said carefully. "They told me this bill is for you." The tent fell silent. Forks stopped midair. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the DJ seemed to lower the volume. I opened the folder. $300, the reception dinner balance. I calmly closed it and looked around the room. My mother raised her eyebrows, waiting for me to be responsible. My father folded his arms like this was routine. Zach grinned like he'd won something. I took a slow sip of water. "This must be a mistake," I said to the waiter, voice steady. "Because earlier I was told I wasn't family, so this," I tapped the receipt, "isn't my table." A soft gasp rippled across the tent. The waiter swallowed. The groom pointed me to you. "Oh?" I looked straight at Zach. Funny, the groom also pointed me toward the garbage when he chose this table for me. Zach's smirk faltered. He stood abruptly. "It was a joke, Marie. Don't make this a big deal." My mother chimed in with a tight smile. "Sweetheart, you can cover it. Your brother's had a stressful week." There it was, the old script, the golden child's convenience masquerading as family duty. I stood slowly. Then, instead of arguing, I walked to the DJ table, picked up the microphone, and stepped into the center of the tent. A hush fell instantly. Hi, everyone, I said, voice calm and clear. I'd like to make a quick toast. Zach's eyes widened in panic. My mother mouthed, Marie, don't. My father shook his head. But I continued. To my brother Zach, congratulations. You really pulled off the perfect wedding. Beautiful venue, gorgeous decorations, and even a special seat just for me, by the trash cans. Nervous laughter sprinkled through the tent. And to my parents, thank you for the invitation. A whole week before the wedding. It's nice to know I still rank somewhere between junk mail and a late utility bill. Silence, everyone frozen. But don't worry, I'm not angry. Actually, I'm relieved, because tonight made something very clear. I smiled, a slow, sharp smile. I finally know exactly where I stand. I placed the mic down gently, walked past the decorated tables, past my stunned family, and out of the tent. No yelling, no theatrics. Just a quiet exit with every camera phone recording. For once, I wasn't the one who felt disposable. And none of them, not even Zach, had any idea what I knew. The world was about to see everything they'd tried to hide. When I woke up the next morning, my phone looked like it was having a seizure. Missed calls, voicemails, hundreds, literally hundreds of notifications. For one blissful moment, half asleep, I wondered if something good had happened. Then reality slid back into place like a blade. It started with messages from friends. Marie, you're going viral. Is this really you? Girl, your speech is everywhere. My stomach dropped. I opened TikTok, and there it was. A video titled, When the Forgotten Sister Finally Snaps, #trash table, #wedding disaster, #boundaries. A shaky clip filmed from behind the bridesmaids showed me standing in the center of the reception tent, microphone in hand, delivering that toast with the calm of a surgeon making the final incision. The clip already had 1.8 million views. I blinked, refreshed. 2.1 million views. Comments poured like rain. She's a legend, not the trash can table. Imagine treating your own daughter like that. Marie Patterson, I salute you. Hold on, is the groom smirking? Jail. Her voice didn't shake once. Queen behavior. My hands shook. Not from fear, from the overwhelming sense that something irreversible had happened. I was no longer invisible, and my family was about to hate that. The first call came from my mother. I didn't answer. The second came from my father. Ignored. The third was Zach. I let it ring. Then the fourth, fifth, sixth. Finally, a voicemail pinged. I played it. My mother's voice, trembling but angry. Marie, what you did was completely uncalled for. Take that video down immediately. I laughed out loud. I didn't even upload the video. Another voicemail. My dad this time. We need to have a family discussion, in private, before this gets worse. Then Zach, you humiliated me, on my wedding day. Delete the video, now. Then another. I swear, Marie, you always make everything about yourself. It was pathetic. The exact same script they always used. The same accusations. The same manipulation. Only this time, millions of people were watching. And they weren't siding with them. The internet didn't just react, it erupted. A wedding guest had posted a longer clip. That one had 4.7 million views. A TikTok creator had stitched my speech with commentary. This is the most satisfying boundary setting I've seen in years. Someone else reposted a breakdown titled, How to Handle Toxic Family Dynamics at Events, Marie Patterson edition. Suddenly, I was a symbol, a meme, a movement. The comments weren't just about the moment. They were about everything I'd lived through. Forgotten eldest daughters, invisible middle children, family scapegoats, people who sat quietly at the trash table their whole lives. It was painful, it was validating, and it was bigger than I expected. But the biggest surprise came midday. A direct message request from Amanda Holden, Zach's brand new wife. My heart skipped. I hesitated, then opened it. Her message wasn't long. Marie, can we talk, please? I stared at it for a full minute. Amanda was always polite, always soft-spoken, someone who seemed too gentle for the Holden family circus. At the wedding, she'd looked beautiful, but strained, like a porcelain figurine placed too close to the edge. I typed back one word. Why? Her response came instantly. Because I didn't know about the seating, about the bill, about all of it. And I'm sorry. My breath caught. She continued, Please, I'm not defending him. I need to explain. This wasn't some rehearsed PR statement. It sounded like someone unraveling. I met her at a small coffee shop 2 hours later. Amanda looked nothing like a newlywed. Her makeup was smudged, her bun messy, her dress wrinkled. The first thing she said was, I didn't plan the seating chart that way. Her voice cracked. I assigned you a seat with the cousins, she said, hands trembling around her latte. I even color-coded it. Zach said he'd handle final adjustments. She swallowed hard. I didn't know where he moved you until I saw you sitting there. My throat tightened. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. He laughed when I confronted him. He said you take everything personally and that the table placement would teach you not to be so sensitive. Something inside me twisted, not from shock, but from recognition. That was Zach. The real Zach. The version my parents refused to acknowledge. Then Amanda said something that genuinely shook me. I think I made a mistake marrying him. Silence. Outside, cars passed. Coffee machines hissed. Life went on. Inside, her confession hung between us like heavy smoke. She looked down at her cup. My mom didn't come to the wedding, she whispered. She warned me. She said he had red flags. I told her she was being judgmental. But after what he did to you... Her voice broke. I don't know who I married. I wasn't sure what to say. So she kept talking. He didn't just hide the seating chart. He hid debts from me. He maxed out a credit card to look like he came from money. He blamed me for the declined payment. And when your speech went viral, she exhaled shakily. He said it was my fault for not controlling you. I almost choked. She nodded miserably. I needed someone to talk to who actually sees him clearly. And then, because life loves surprises, my phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Sabrina Cole, Ryan's ex-girlfriend, had tagged him in a story. A picture of them from years ago with the caption, "Crazy how life brings people back into your orbit." I felt my stomach drop. Amanda saw my face change. You okay? I forced a smile. But inside, something sharp pulsed. Because even as my family fell apart, even as Amanda confessed her marriage was cracking, even as the internet crowned me a symbol, my past, or rather Ryan's past, wasn't done with me. This wasn't just a family drama anymore. It was turning into something bigger, messier, more personal. And all I could think was, here we go again. I didn't answer Sabrina's story. I didn't react. I didn't even blink for a moment. But that sinking feeling, that familiar tightness in my chest, crept in anyway. I'd worked so hard to build a life away from people who manipulated, who twisted guilt into obligation, who weaponized affection. So the idea of Ryan's ex suddenly showing up, tugging at old threads just because my life blew up online, it hit harder than I expected. But I forced the thought aside. Right now, Amanda needed something I'd rarely been given, someone to listen. She sat across from me in that cafe, hands shaking slightly as she took a sip of her latte. Her wedding ring glinted when her fingers trembled, a cruel shimmer for someone whose happily ever after had cracked within 48 hours. I'm sorry for dumping all this on you, she murmured. You don't owe me an apology, I said, and I meant it. She looked up with tear-bright eyes. Most people wouldn't believe me. Most people hadn't grown up in the Patterson household. I leaned forward. Start from the beginning. She nodded, then exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for months. Zach changed after our engagement, she said. He wasn't cruel, not at first, just dismissive. If I disagreed with him, he'd say I was too emotional. If I suggested something expensive wasn't necessary, he'd say I didn't understand what kind of lifestyle he wanted. I snorted under my breath. Yeah, the lifestyle funded by everyone but him. She cracked the smallest, saddest smile. Exactly. He told his friends he was paying for everything, but he wasn't. My mom offered to help. He told me to decline because it made him look weak. Meanwhile, he was secretly maxing out cards and lying about it. The puzzle pieces of Zach's polished wedding image clicked together into something darker. And then, she whispered, he started making comments about you. My eyebrows lifted. Me? Yes. Before the wedding, he told me not to expect much from you. That you were difficult, overly sensitive, and liked causing drama. He said if anything went wrong, it would be your fault. And the seating chart. Her voice wavered again. He thought it was funny. He said you always think you're above everyone, and this would put you in your place. My chest tightened, but not from pain, from clarity. For years, I'd blamed myself. For not being close to my family, for being treated like an outsider, for not understanding what invisible rule I was always breaking. There was no rule. They just liked having someone beneath them. Amanda wiped her eyes. When you walked in and sat at that table, I felt sick. I wanted to say something, but Zach whispered, "Don't make a scene." She swallowed. Marie, I've never felt so complicit in cruelty. You didn't do it, I said gently. But I didn't stop it. And for someone like Amanda, kind, conflict avoidant, that felt like a betrayal of her own values. I understood that feeling better than she knew. Then she leaned closer, lowering her voice. And after seeing how your parents reacted, how they immediately tried to place the responsibility on you, I realized something. Her eyes locked onto mine with sudden, startling intensity. They taught him to be this way. I didn't respond because I couldn't. Hearing someone else articulate what I'd buried for years, it was validating, painful, and terrifying all at once. My phone buzzed again. Another notification. Sabrina Cole posted a new story. I ignored it, turning my phone face down on the table. But Amanda noticed. Everything okay? My boyfriend's ex is resurfacing, I said simply. Amanda grimaced sympathetically. Because of the viral clip? I nodded. She wants attention, Amanda said. You're tied to a trending moment. Some people can't resist trying to attach themselves to anything with an audience. I wanted to shrug it off, but the truth was, it bothered me more than I expected. This whole situation with my family already scraped every old wound raw. Being blindsided by Sabrina when I finally had something real with Ryan, it hit a bruise I didn't want to admit existed. We talked for nearly 2 hours. Amanda told me things that made my skin crawl. Zach suggested she quit her job because wives shouldn't work more than their husbands. He controlled their wedding budget, but hid receipts. He criticized her weight during fittings. He told her mother she was too involved, and then banned her from attending the wedding. And then, he said you were jealous of him, Amanda whispered. That's why he treats you the way he does, because you resent him for being successful. I laughed, a single sharp sound with no humor in it. Zach calls anything he doesn't like jealousy, I said. It's easier than acknowledging he's the problem. Amanda looked relieved. You believe me? She asked softly. I do, I replied, because you're saying the quiet part out loud, the part no one else has ever admitted. She exhaled shakily. What are you going to do? I asked. I don't know, she whispered, but I think I need to tell the truth before this becomes the rest of my life. There was fear in her voice, but also something new. Resolve. When we left the cafe, Amanda hugged me tightly. Thank you, she said, for seeing me. And as I watched her walk away, something shifted. For the first time, someone from inside my family's orbit saw what I had lived through. Someone believed me, really believed me. It was strange. It felt like the world was tilting. I walked home slowly, phone in hand, bracing myself. As soon as I unlocked the screen, a new text appeared. Not from Sabrina, not from my parents, not even from Amanda, but from Ryan. We need to talk tonight about Sabrina. Please don't worry. Just come over. My stomach twisted. This wasn't going to be simple, because family chaos was one thing. But when your partner's past started bleeding into your present, that was a different kind of storm, and it was heading straight for me. Ryan lived in a small apartment on the east side of town. Warm yellow lights, a battered leather couch, and plants he somehow kept alive, even though he forgot to water them half the time. Normally, stepping through his door felt like exhaling after holding my breath too long. But that night, my lungs refused to expand. He opened the door before I could knock twice. Marie, he said softly. His eyes were worried, not guilty. That alone kept me standing there, instead of turning around and running home. We sat on the couch, silence thick and pulsing. Finally, Ryan spoke. Sabrina is trying to take advantage of the viral video. You need to know that's all this is. I didn't interrupt. I let him talk. She messaged me this morning, said it was funny that you'd become internet famous overnight, asked if we were still together, told me she'd love to catch up. He rubbed a hand over his face, and when I didn't answer, she started posting old pictures of us on her story. My throat tightened, not because I didn't trust him, because I knew how people like Sabrina operated. My mother, Zach, I'd been trained from childhood to recognize manipulation in all its flavors. Did you respond? I asked. No, he said firmly. I blocked her. I breathed out for the first time all day. But, he added gently, I also wanted you to know before anything escalated. I don't want secrets between us, not after everything you've been through. That sentence alone almost broke me. Not after everything you've been through. Someone actually saw it. Someone actually understood it enough to name it. I leaned into him and he pulled me close, solid and steady and safe, in a way I wasn't used to. And when he kissed my forehead, every knot I'd been carrying loosened just a bit. Family pain I could handle. Sabrina's games too. But losing Ryan? I couldn't bear that thought. Thank you for telling me, I whispered. Really? He hugged me tighter. I'm here, he said, no matter what dumpster fire your family tries to light next. I laughed, weakly but genuinely. Little did he know, the next blaze was already burning. The invitation to war. The following morning, I got a text from my mother. Not an apology, not an acknowledgement, not even a question. Just, we need to meet. Your father and I expect you at Harvest Cafe at 2. Don't make a scene this time. My blood boiled instantly. This time? As if the seating chart, the trash table, the $3,200 bill, as if all of that was just a minor inconvenience I should have smiled through. I considered ignoring her, but a part of me, the part that had swallowed disrespect for nearly 3 decades, wanted to face them. Not for their sake. For mine. So I went. Harvest Cafe was one of those places that pretended to be rustic, but charged $6 for a slice of banana bread. My parents were already seated when I walked in. Stiff postures, tight mouths, both wearing clothes that screamed professional casual in the fakest way possible. My mother didn't even say hello. This has gone too far, Marie. My father nodded solemnly. We're being ridiculed online. There it was. Not you were hurt. Not we mistreated you. Not we're sorry. Just their reputation, their embarrassment, their image. I sat down slowly. Then maybe you shouldn't have treated me like that in the first place, I said. My mother scoffed. Oh, stop being dramatic. It was just a table. It was humiliation, I replied. Intentional humiliation. My father leaned forward. You embarrassed the family. I stared at him, a cold calm spreading through me. No, I said. I told the truth. The truth embarrassed you. They blinked. Just once. But it was enough to see the cracks. My mother tried again. You blew this out of proportion. You sat me by the trash, I snapped. My voice didn't rise, but it cut through the cafe like broken glass. You expected me to pay your son's bill, and when I didn't, you all turned on me like I was the villain. My father's jaw tightened. Zach was stressed. You should have offered support. I almost laughed. Support? He hasn't supported me a day in his life. They exchanged a glance. That infuriating, silent communication of two people who thought they held the moral high ground. My mother leaned in. We are your parents. You owe us respect. I owe you nothing, I said quietly. Not anymore. She froze. What is that supposed to mean? It means I'm done, I said. Done pretending we're a functional family. Done sitting quietly while you elevate Zach and treat Jake and me like afterthoughts. Done letting you shape my worth. Tears, real, hot tears, stung my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. You didn't come here to make things right, I continued. You came here to salvage your image because for the first time, people are seeing what you really are. My mother's lip trembled. This isn't you, she whispered. You used to be so nice, so quiet. There it was, the truth they couldn't maintain anymore. They loved me most when I was silent. I stood. We're done here. My father stood too. Marie, don't be ridiculous. I stepped back from him. I spent my whole life trapped in a story where I was the supporting character in your version of the family. I'm rewriting that narrative now. And with that, I walked out of the cafe. They didn't follow. They didn't call my name. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't know how to care in a way that didn't center themselves. A new message. That evening, after hours of silence, I received a text from Jake. Hey Marie, can we talk? I should have spoken up years ago. I'm sorry. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Jake, kind, quiet Jake, the one who always hovered in Zach's shadow. He had never once acknowledged any of the cruelty. And now he wanted to talk? I replied simply, yes, because maybe, just maybe, not everyone in my family was lost to the rot. A sudden explosion. Right before bed, I got a notification. Amanda Holden posted a new story. I clicked it. My heart stopped. Because in crisp, unfiltered text, she wrote, I'm done protecting people who don't deserve it. Here's the truth about what really happened at our wedding. And then she uploaded screenshots. Dozens of them. Zach yelling at her. Zach blaming her. Zach mocking me. Zach admitting the seating chart was intentional. Zach lying about money. Zach insulting her mother. Zach saying I should learn my place. My phone started vibrating nonstop as comments exploded across her page. This wasn't just my story anymore. It was unraveling faster than anyone could contain. And Zach? He had no idea the tidal wave heading straight for him. Jake chose a backyard wedding. No vineyard, no Pinterest boards, no $20,000 fantasy tent. Just string lights, hand-picked flowers, a rented speaker, and a yard full of people who genuinely loved him. When the invitation arrived in my mailbox, I expected something simple. What I didn't expect was the handwritten note tucked inside. Marie, you'll be sitting with us. At the family table, where you belong. I read it 3 times. Not because I doubted the words, but because they were the first my family had given me that felt safe, chosen, real. I got to his wedding early, partly out of habit. Old wounds make you show up before anyone else can hurt you. But Jake greeted me at the gate with a hug so warm I almost forgot how cold the last decade had been. You came, he said, voice cracking slightly. You invited me, I replied. He laughed, wiping his eyes. Yeah, and this time you're not sitting near any trash cans. The wedding that healed a piece of me. It was beautiful in the quiet way real things are beautiful. Jake's fiancée, Olivia, walked down a grassy aisle lined with lanterns. Her dress was simple, flowing, nothing flashy, but her smile lit up the entire lawn. Ryan stood next to me, his hand threaded through mine, thumb stroking circles on my skin in a way that grounded me more than he knew. There were no seating charts designed to humiliate, no whispered hierarchy, no performative speeches, just two people choosing each other without the pressure of image or spectacle. When we sat down for dinner, I nearly froze. My name card wasn't an afterthought, it wasn't scribbled, it wasn't taped to a fold-out table. It was placed at Jake's right-hand side, directly across from Olivia's grandmother. Not the edge, not the leftovers, the family table. For the first time in years, people looked at me when I spoke. They listened. They asked questions. They remembered details I'd told them earlier. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't tolerated. I was welcome. It was everything I'd spent my life pretending I didn't need. And it felt like balm pressed onto an old burning scar. The shadow outside the fence. Dessert had just been served. Strawberry shortcake that tasted like summer. When I saw the movement near the edge of the property, 3 silhouettes stood just beyond the wooden fence. Zach, my mother, my father. They weren't talking. They weren't smiling. They were watching. Not guests, not invited, just shadows of the people they'd chosen to be. My stomach twisted. Ryan noticed immediately. Do you want me to ask Jake to? No, I said quietly, placing a hand on his. I've got this. I stood, walked slowly across the lawn, each step grounding me deeper into the realization that this time I held the power. Not them, not the past, not the guilt. Me. When I reached the fence, they stiffened like they expected a fight. My father spoke first. Looks like you found your place. He meant it as an insult. But it wasn't. Yeah, I said softly. I did. My mother's eyes glistened with something unspoken. Not remorse. Something uglier. Envy. Loss. Realization that the daughter she'd spent years erasing no longer existed in her world. Then Zach stepped forward. It's just weird, he said, his voice sharp, tinged with disbelief. Seeing you at the head table, like you belong there. I didn't flinch, I didn't shrink, I didn't apologize. I met his gaze with calm, unshakable truth. I do belong here. Silence. They didn't respond. They couldn't, because it was the first time any of them heard me speak without fear or hesitation. And they didn't know how to handle it. I turned and walked back across the yard, leaving them behind. Not because they weren't welcome, but because they'd never chosen to be part of my life in any real way. Some people stand outside the fence because they built it. Some because they can't climb over their own pride. Either way, I wasn't on their side anymore. The toast that rewrote everything. Back at the table, Jake lifted his glass. Marie, he said, his voice steady but thick, thank you for being here, for everything you said at the wedding, and everything before that. You showed me what real strength looks like. My throat tightened. He raised his glass higher. To real family, he said, chosen or not. The whole table echoed. To real family. I lifted my glass too. For Jake, for myself, for the future I was finally walking toward. And just when the waiter approached to collect the checks, Jake stood, smiled, and said clearly, "This is our table." And for the first time in my life, I believed him. I wasn't the background character anymore. I wasn't the convenient scapegoat. I wasn't the invisible eldest daughter. I was someone who finally chose myself. And the world didn't end. It opened.